Are you tired of searching through countless sports betting sites to find the best odds and deals? Look no further than BetStamp, the ultimate tool for sports bettors.
BetStamp is your all-in-one platform for sports betting with real-time odds and analysis from top sportsbooks in the industry. With BetStamp, you'll never miss a beat when it comes to finding the best deals and maximizing your winnings.
BetStamp also provides advanced features such as bankroll tracking and betting trends, so you can make informed decisions and stay ahead of the game. And with their user-friendly interface and personalized alerts, you'll always be in control of your bets and never miss out on a winning opportunity.
BetStamp allows you to follow other users to be instantly notified they are tracking their picks. Following winning users in the BetStamp pick marketplace is a great way to find new bets.
So why wait? Download BetStamp now using the code DIEHARDS and take your betting game to the next level. The odds are ever in your favor.
Today's special guest is the creator of an infamous Twitter account that has gotten recognition on national TV, and the account is named after himself. Please welcome the leader of the Bratt Pack.
How's it going, guys? Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So, we're happy to have you on the podcast. The New Jersey Devils have been one of the best teams and had like some of the craziest records of this season so far. So one of the questions we wanted to ask to you, being a New Jersey Devils connoisseur, would be, what do you see the New Jersey Devils going into playoffs as? Do you see them as a cup contender? Do you think the trade deadline acquisitions changed your perspective on that?
I mean, honestly, going into this season, I did a couple other podcasts where I said we'd be like an 85, 90 point team, maybe pushing 95 at most. And I think we're already at like 86, 88, whatever it is. So they've already surpassed my expectations this year. So I almost like don't want to give expectations because I feel like they could just go do whatever they want. I think we have a really, really tough first round matchup any way you cut it at this point, looking at how the, playoffs are shaping up. It's looking like we're going to get the Rangers first round unless something drastic happens, like we pass, the Hurricanes or Rangers drop out below the Penguins or something like that. But that Rangers Devils first round makes me really nervous. I could see this team losing in the first round. I could see this team going to the Cup Finals at this point. Like, I really think anything is possible. They've been so weird to predict this season because they went on that massive win streak early in the season. Then they seem to like bottom out and have a terrible December. And then they've been really, really good since. Some things, I feel like we started to see some cracks in the armor. Goaltending hasn't been quite as good recently. So it's one of those things where if the goalies are good and the team's playing well, there's no reason why they can't make a cup run even this year. But I'm trying to temper my expectations a little bit. First round matchup is going to be really, really tough. So anything can happen here. I really am putting like all my focus on just the first round for now. The deadline acquisitions certainly help. I think going into this season, again, we were looking at this as like year one of the window, and you don't really put all your chips in year one of the window. And I know there's a school of thought that's like, well, no, you put your chips in if you're in the window at all. I get that. But getting Timo Meier, we've talked a lot about Tom Fitzgerald's plan for the Devils, and Meier's not meant to be a rental. We got him RFA. They're working on an extension. He was really brought in to be part of the whole window, not just this year. So I think he definitely helps us this year, and I think he pushes us into that contender status for this year. But I think he pushes us into that contender status for a couple years to come now even. So, the sky's the limit for this team, but we're not used to this. This really is, year one of us being like this. I mean, last year they had 67 points total, end of the season. So, sky's the limit, but we're so used to the basement that it's almost hard to plan, to be a contender here.
And I had one more question about Timo Meier. Like, I totally agree. That's like being a fan of a team that was kind of mediocre for so long, and maybe mediocre is even a generous word. Like going from something where you're like consistently not making every year, getting a high pick, and then in the trade for Timo Meier, not having to give up any of those pieces that you got with those extremely high picks. How did that feel, seeing the package that you had to give up to get a perennial 30 goal scorer?
it was so funny because if you guys remember when that trade happened, the pieces like trickled in. Like we got one at a time, for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so originally it was announced that I think Fabian Zetterland and like a first round pick were part of the deal. And I was sitting there going, no way. This is the best trade that's ever happened. Oh my God. Like someone should get fired for this in San Jose. And then, again, it started to trickle in like, oh, well, actually, there's another potential first for next year. And then, Shakir Moukmadoulan was added, and then Andreas Johnson was added. And it ended up being like, okay, all right, we can't get excited yet because we don't know. Like, it might still keep coming. Like, I was just waiting to see, like, a prospect that I don't even want to say his name because I never thought Luke Hughes was going to get traded. Like, it was never a possibility for me. But, part of me was waiting to see a name like Luke Hughes come up on my Twitter feed, just being like, this trade's not as good as I thought. And they kept coming in. And then the final like trade package came in, and it really wasn't that bad. We didn't give up, Hughes, Nemitz, any of the like really premier prospects we have. Sucks to lose Zetterland. I liked Moukmadoulan as a prospect, but we're talking about a fringe possible good prospect and a guy who, I think Zetterland was a third round pick who was fighting for like a middle six spot for Timo Meyer, like you said, a perennial 30 goal scorer. It's like you got to give up a little bit to get a lot. And I think we did that. It's really, really nice that we didn't necessarily break the bank for it. We didn't give up the Luke Hughes, the Nemitz, those kind of guys. And even some of the other guys that were on the table, like Dawson Mercer and Yegor Sharangovich, we got to keep all of them. It's honestly, I think that is the product of what we've been doing for a few years now. We've stockpiled all these guys to the point where it's like, when you have two prospects and you trade away two prospects, you just, you're screwed. You lost everything. But when you have 15 prospects and you trade away two of them, who cares? We made our team better by getting rid of surplus. Moukmadoulan, first round pick, hasn't made it to the NHL yet, but he's a defenseman. We are so log jammed in defense with so many better prospects that it's like he's a good prospect, but he's not really ever going to be a Devil. So getting rid of him is like we literally just, trimmed some fat, so to speak, got rid of the surplus to get what we actually needed. I think it was a perfect trade for us, in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's we were looking at top nines of teams just in the NHL, like especially with Boston adding as well. And I'd say New Jersey is right up there with almost anyone in the league. It's pretty scary, especially when they have like such a solid defense core too. It's like I'm so jealous.
It happened overnight too. I mean, look at this team last year. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there were some circumstances last year that made it way worse than it really should have been.
Mhm.
But looking at this team the past few years and looking at them now is like, how did this happen? But you're right. I would agree with that.
Yeah, no, and I think the decor for me is the special part of this team that no one really talks about as much. Like Siegenthaler was a player that I didn't see him turning into this when he was on the Cavs, but it was also just because he never got the opportunity with us, and it's slightly annoying seeing how well he's doing with Dougie Hamilton there.
Yeah, and you gave us Vanacek as well.
Yeah, the goalie situation kind of just worked out in like a weird way for like all three teams, but
yeah,
Vanacek is the one that I had. I think I was the only one that had hope from in Washington, and things kind of just fell apart when he got injured in the playoffs that 1 year, and then it just never came to fruition. But my first question would be, so I'm the one out of us three that probably follows your Twitter account the most, and it is one of my favorite things to go look at when I'm
Thank
scrolling
you.
Twitter. Mostly the trolling of Rangers fans is quite high on that list, but so my first question is just how did your account come to be? Like I see your bio says something about you just not wanting to annoy your fiance, and it's just
Yeah.
it became a result of that. But how is this like? How did it become a Bratt specific account?
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, I want to say, I really haven't, been around that long on hockey Twitter. I was just using my personal Twitter, friends, family, hockey reporters, whatever it was. And anytime the Devils would post I would see like in the replies, there would be all these like fake accounts, so to speak, like, Nico Hischier supporter, Pavel Zaka fan, like, all these like, burner accounts that I had no idea of like the world or community behind it. I mean, I didn't know Devil's Twitter was even a thing. I thought, people just follow the Devil's account on Twitter. Like, I didn't realize fan accounts and burners and all this stuff existed. And I think it was like the trade deadline maybe 2 seasons ago where I started following all the insiders and the reporters and all that, and I started to notice that my whole feed was just hockey. Like my friends, my family, I'm into like music stuff that I just like wasn't seeing anymore. It was just like all hockey all the time. And I was like, all right, listen, we got to like figure something out here. And I know Twitter has like a list feature or whatever, but I was like, why don't I just make a second account so that I can have hockey on one page and like unfollow everyone on my personal account, hockey related. So my personal account stays on my personal stuff, and I could just check the timeline for hockey news on the other account. So, like I said, I had seen these, burners before that were all like kind of these like cartoon caricatures of these other players with like poorly photoshopped, like, edits here. So I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'll just make one of those. I'll pick a player, and I mean, it is my favorite player, Jesper Bratt. I was like, I'll make one Bratt themed, and I'll kind of just hold on to it to follow. And so I made the account, and as it kind of progressed, and I started seeing like, wait, no, like this is kind of like a community here. Like these people talk to each other, like it's like a thing. I started following a bunch of people and started like interacting with everyone. And from there, I can barely explain the rest of it. I don't know kind of how it evolved from there. I just posted like jokes and memes and stuff, and I don't know, like the follower account just started to go up a little bit. And I think I hit like a few hundred, and just to be like, again, just to be part of the community, started posting like memes like over and over again. Like when they would lose, I would post the same meme every time type thing. And at the end of last season, I would post a meme of Grant Gustin over the grave, the funeral meme where if the Devils lost but Jesper Bratt scored a point, it would be like Devils lose, Bratt point. And I started posting that because it started happening a lot. I mean, he was scoring a lot last year. They were losing a lot of games last year. And people started to like, I don't know, get used to it and pay attention to it and look forward to it. And like, it's like I said, the follower count just started to go up and up and up. And I was just like, okay, like maybe I'll just continue doing this. So funny enough, it actually had nothing to do with my fiance. She hates that bio because she thinks that it makes her like look bad. Like she asked me to like make a separate account or something, which is so like far from the truth. I did it myself to like not annoy her with my hockey stuff because it was taking over my life. But yeah, no, from there it just like, I mean, the rest is history, as I say. Like I don't know, it just kept going up, and it's I can't explain it. I just post what I think is funny, and people seem to like it.
That's awesome, man. And that exact meme is now used on Caps Twitter for whenever Ovechkin scores and we lose.
Really? I don't think I've seen that, but that's hilarious.
It's the exact same thing, man. It's the whole like thought map because we're just like, well, let's get the record. Who cares if we ever make the playoffs again?
Yeah. I mean, they were sellers at the deadline, but they're still pushing him to score as many goals as possible.
Yeah.
It's funny.
So my next question is just, who is the coolest person that you've gotten recognition from aside from Bratt himself?
Yeah, I mean, obviously number one is Jesper Bratt himself. There's been a few things that have been like absolutely unreal. I think probably the coolest person, like single person, is Kevin Weeks. I have a weird little inside connection to the studio where he works, and I heard actually months before he actually ever like referenced it on air. So, my friend had messaged me and said like, hey, like just so you know, like he, works behind the scenes. Is like, but I've talked to Kevin, like he knows about you, like loves what you're doing, and like even that was like so cool and ridiculous and whatever. So when he mentioned it on air, it was just like the cherry on top of the cake of like, oh my God, this is real. Like, and not only for me, but when I met Jesper Bratt and I was talking to him about it, he said, oh yeah, like I heard Kevin Weeks talking about it, and I think that's like the coolest thing. And I was like, wait, if you think that's the coolest thing, then like I'm like I was in the clouds by that point.
Yeah.
But probably the single like coolest moment, just because it's not like a single person, is when they're playing the Maple Leafs in Toronto earlier this year. Jesper Bratt scored a goal, and I forget what network they're on, TSN, I think.
Mhm.
After Jesper Bratt scored his goal, TSN aired a clip of Jesper Bratt walking out on the ice to meet me, and they were talking about me and my Twitter account. And I was just like, oh my God, like I didn't ask them to do this. I didn't know they were doing this. I don't know anyone who works there. Like it was totally random. Like I wasn't expecting it. I think when I saw that, that was the most like, oh my God, like this is real, like
Mhm.
moment for me for sure.
That was, and the thing is, like, the connection that I made with you was just like when I was just following you casually, I didn't really realize all the buzz that was around you at the time. And then I heard Paul Biznasty talk about you on Chicklets, and
Yeah.
I was like, wait, no, I follow this guy and go
Yeah.
for them. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No,
pretty insane how you grew like that, man.
it's like I said, it's been coming from places that I really, really don't expect it. Like when someone, on like NHL Network or something mentions it, and I don't even know who they are.
Mhm.
And no offense to anyone on NHL Network, I don't really watch it personally, but like Jackie Redmond had mentioned it on NHL Network, and I was just like, I don't even know who that is. Like that's awesome. They know who I am. I don't even know, like, and I know who she is now, and I'm a big fan of her now.
Mhm.
But when it started to be people that I didn't know anymore,
Yeah,
that's when it was just like, wow, this is crazy and like out of hand.
it's awesome.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so I have a quick question for you. I know you mentioned that you'd be pretty nervous going into a playoff series against the Rangers.
Yeah.
So going into that series right now, if you're looking at that matchup, what makes you really confident about the Devils, and what scares you most about the Rangers?
I mean, most confident about the Devils is I think their forward group, when they're firing on all cylinders, is super, super scary for the simple fact that they can roll four lines, and no matter what line is on the ice, they're a threat. There is no like defensive checking line. It's four lines of skill. It's four lines that can score on you. And I think, you know, not a lot of teams can say that. A lot of top sixes that are very, very strong kind of, fall off towards the third and fourth line. So I think if they're firing on all cylinders, they're clicking, they're doing what they do, I think it's going to be an absolute barrage on Shesterkin. But that brings me to what I'm scared most about against the Rangers, Igor Shesterkin.
Yeah.
No matter what we bring at him, it's entirely possible that he just stops all of it anyway.
Yeah.
He has that ability to steal games and to stand on his head and to do whatever he wants to do. And he's been kind of I don't know, shaky the past few weeks even.
Mhm.
So I'm really hoping he's human this playoffs.
Yeah.
But just like we saw last year, he can literally do anything.
Mhm.
It I'm not quite as nervous for their skaters. I think honestly, I think the Devils stand toe to toe with their skaters. I think pretty 50-50, if not advantage Devils.
Mhm.
But Shesterkin, like goalies in hockey, and Shesterkin especially, just have that ability that if he decides to play like God himself, it could
Mhm.
be a 4-game series.
Yeah.
So it's such a wild card when you're playing against him.
That is honestly why I like we were talking about Devils Rangers as a series, and I was taking the Devils all the way, and it was pretty much just because of 5-on-5 play. With the Rangers, it's like on any given night they can just dry up offensively at 5-on-5, and it's been
Yeah.
pretty evident the last couple of years, right? Where the Devils, I don't really see that issue, but I guess special teams then just becomes like a extremely extremely important of that series.
Yeah, the Rangers power play is insane. You play a clean game in 5-on-5. I think the Devils beat them,
Yeah.
in 5-6 games, but Shesterkin can push any way he wants.
Mm. Do you think that the Devils are planning on eventually going out and getting a goalie, or do you think that they're just letting Vanacek develop and then maybe maybe a prospect or something come up as well? I think what was that? Nico Dawes, he played last year a lot or a decent amount near the end of the season, but he kind of fell to the back burner a little bit this year. Do you think that they make any moves in that regard or no?
No, not at this time. I think they put a lot of trust in Vanacek so far, and I just don't see them, doubling back on that quite yet. Mackenzie Blackwood is hurt right now. they still seem to, roll him out when possible.
Yeah.
I personally think he could use a change of scenery. I don't think he gets another contract in Jersey. But the backup that we're currently rolling with, Akira Schmid, who when our goalies went down last year, both Blackwood and Bernier, Akira Schmid was supposed to be the prospect coming up to like handle the business, get his chance or whatever. So it was supposed to be Schmid and Dawes, and Schmid just was awful, just absolutely terrible. And Dawes ended up coming up and doing at least good enough to stick around. But Schmid was always like supposed to be the guy. So he came up this year and has looked exactly like he was supposed to. I mean, I think he's sporting like a 925 save percentage and like a 1.95 goals against average in like 12 starts, which, is a small sample, but it's not like he's only played a couple games. So if he continues to be the guy that he is, I don't see any reason why they should really jeopardize the situation. I think Schmid and Vanacek together have shown that they can at least hold together a playoff team. So I don't think it's like an emergency thing that they're looking to do, but it's the NHL goalie situation. Anything can happen anytime. I mean, it's like a carousel half the time. So I don't think it's a need or like a concern right now, but anything's possible.
And I guess you do have like an embarrassment of riches on the back end anyway. So like, I think playing behind that team probably isn't as bad. Like you're looking at Colorado's the decor last year, and then what it is this year with Georgiev too. Like I think any team can do it as long as they have like a decent goalie. And I think Vanacek honestly he can be consistent, and I can still see them making a cup run with him in that. So I have confidence in him there.
Yeah, and the decor is what it is like today. And we're only adding Luke Hughes and Simone Nemitz next year. So it's literally only getting tighter.
I think Severson might be the only guy that's like the odd man out there. Like I think he's due for a new contract at the end of this year, right?
Yeah, Severson and Graves both are due for new contracts. And to be honest, they feel like in-house rentals right now because, with Nemitz and Hughes coming up, Graves and Severson seem to be, the only ones that are not locked up long term, and there's probably reason for that. So if anyone were to leave, I think those two would head out, and that would take a lot of money off our books. Nemitz and Hughes being on entry level contracts versus Severson and Graves that get $4.5 million each. I think Graves gets a little less, but that $9 million could go towards a certain RFA extension that we need to sign right now.
That's fair.
Or one of two.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got Bratt coming too this year, isn't it?
Bratt and Meyer. Yeah.
Lots of cap space for you guys though, so I don't think it'll be that much of an issue, honestly.
I'm not worried about it. A lot of Devils fans have been panicking, thinking 2 big contracts means we have no money. But between Severson, Graves, Tatar, Wood, Johnson, all coming off the books, we have so much money that I think it gets done.
Yeah.
So I had a couple more questions actually, because we don't get to watch Devils games as much as you, I assume. So my question would be to someone who wouldn't watch every game, or maybe a name that doesn't jump out to you necessarily, who on the Devils do you really enjoy their game, or do you think is a really underrated player that people might not think about when thinking of the Devils?
I'll tell you, if I started the Bratt Pack again today and had to pick another player, just like Jesper Bratt at the time, who was like totally under the radar, but is guaranteed to be a superstar in a couple of years, Dawson Mercer is the number one name coming out. He is exactly what we wanted him to be so far. And I know he's starting to get some recognition because he's on a bit of a hot streak right now, but he is like the next guy up in Jersey to turn some heads. So, my work isn't done with Jesper Bratt. We still we still need that national recognition to be a little higher. But I think Dawson Mercer would be next in line if I were to pick a guy to boost today.
And I had one kind of fun question as well. So your name is the Bratt Pack, and usually if you're getting snacks, drinks, something, you get a pack of something. So if you're sitting down for a Devils game, what's your select choice of drink or snack? What's like your ideal food to eat while watching a game?
So I am a massive creature of habit. I pretty much get the same thing every time. Uh, and even pre-game going into the game, there's a bar restaurant across the street from the Prudential Center that has been very, very good to the Bratt Pack. So they get a free ad here. American whiskey is the best place to go before a Devils game. So I've usually had at least a few drinks at American whiskey before going into the game. So by the time I get to the game, it's uh usually a Bud Light tall boy can, and I'm a soft pretzel guy. I love soft pretzels, and most of the time, especially when I don't eat dinner and I'm having a few drinks, I need I need a pretzel for some carbs to get through the game. But funny enough, the Devils like in-house pretzels, like they have like the in-house like concession stands, and then they have like the Auntie Anne's and stuff. I always have to make sure to go to an Auntie Anne stand because the pretzels at the Devils like concession stand are literally like sawdust dry. They are like you literally cannot eat one without like also taking a sip of your drink at the same time because it just won't go down. So I love soft pretzels. They are my choice, but I have to go Auntie Anne's. You'll never catch me with a Prudential Center pretzel anymore.
Maybe you'll see us down there with you at some point, and we'll hit you up and get some soft pretzels and Bud Lights with you.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, the Devils have the Caps tonight. You gonna be watching?
Oh yes.
Were you at the
so excited.
were you at the game, the Leafs and Devils game on Tuesday? Were you there that day?
Oh yeah, I've been to both Leafs Devils games this season.
Okay.
Were you throwing beers on the ice?
I did not. Contrary to popular belief, I did not throw anything. I got into a little bit of trouble over a tweet that was encouraging people to, but to put it on the record for everyone here, I tweeted that well after it had already started. I was not the catalyst. Not only that, but I imagine people at the game who were very upset at the time were not looking for my tweets for directions. I don't think I had anything to do.
So what was during that game, what was the atmosphere like after each of those disallowed goals?
Oh my God, it was incredible. I don't know if I've ever been in a building filled with like that amount of heat. Like I don't know, maybe like a WWE WrestleMania when like a heel comes out for the main event type heat. Like that third goal, the level of booing I heard was louder than any level of cheers I've ever heard. It was
Wow.
you could cut the air with a knife. Like when they finally scored their goal towards the end of the game, it was the place was so tense, and like I said, you could literally feel it around you. It was, one of the best / worst atmospheres I've ever been in. It felt like a Stanley Cup game after the third disallowed goal. It was really something. I mean, I think anyone who went to that game would agree with that it was just everyone, their blood was boiling.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I did not throw anything.
I'll make sure that I get that as a TikTok on its own so people can know.
Yeah. Put it on TikTok. I did not throw anything. Can't catch me.
Thanks for your time, Ed.
Absolutely.
Great interview. I think the interviewing someone that's actually a fan of a team is actually sometimes better than interviewing a player at times, because you give like the honest truth of everything, right? So
yeah, and honestly, I think that's like kind of what people have taken to in terms of like the growth of the account is like, I don't work for anyone. I'm not a reporter. I don't write for anyone. Like I don't have a boss in any of this. Like I really can just say whatever the hell I want. And like, I do that. I do what I think is funny. And I think most people, most will say also, find it funny. So, I just say whatever comes to mind. And I think people kind of do appreciate that sometimes.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. Like, obviously, I don't know exactly what you do for work, but you're super well spoken. Like, we've had other people on that do podcasts all the time, and I would say you're just as good at like getting your thoughts out there. There's no ums and buts, but it's we really appreciate you coming on and like
Absolutely.
Speaking your mind and so perfectly. So, we'd love to have you on again. And I actually just came into possession recently of some Devils gear, so I'll be repping that in the playoffs, assuming my team does not make it. So,
well, for my sake, I hope they don't, so you can rep the Devils.
There we go.
All right, man. I think the meeting's about to end.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thanks so
much,
much.
man.
Thanks a lot,
Appreciate your
man.
time.
Really,
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. I'm glad to come back anytime.
Thank you.
Awesome.